Hey there, and welcome to this week's live Support Ops Hangout. I'm your host, Chase Clemens. Out this week, still Carolyn. She is officially MIA now. We assume that she's okay because she keeps tweeting and sending photos. But we're hoping that she comes back to the show soon. And Jeff is buried under a snow fort, I think. Something like that. I think basically like his house is nothing but snow now. So he's out this week. But you've got both Chases here. So the dynamic duo, which is going to be fantastic for the show anyways. So let's go ahead and bring the other Chase on. Livingston, how are you?
I'm good. The test will be to see if everybody can pick out which Chase is which based on our voices if they're not watching the video.
Good luck. And really, even when you're watching the video, it's kind of a toss-up between both of us wearing plaid basically all the time and the beards and all that.
General wardrobe is pretty standard.
It's fun though. It's like playing Where's Waldo, just the podcast version.
Exactly.
All right. So this week we had to shuffle some topics around. So if you listened to last week's episode, you heard we were going to talk about firing employees now that you hired and all that fun stuff. But we wanted to make sure that Jeff and Carolyn got another conversation too. So we're going to delay that one a little bit until we can regroup and get them back on the show. So for this one, we're going to be playing into one of Livingston and mine's strengths, and that's live chat. It's something that we've talked about a little bit here and there on previous episodes, but we want to give it its due diligence and really talk about when you should be using it, why you should be using it, where at in your app or your product or on your website you should be using it. Just kind of like I said, give it its due course and really dive into live chat. And since Livingston ran live chat over at Automatic, we did it with Basecamp. I figured it would be a pretty good topic. So let's start just for people that don't think that live chat's important. I went back through some of my notes and everything and wanted to give you some stats that you can use that way whenever you're talking to your boss, being like, hey, we should be using live chat. Here's what you need to know. So customers opt for live chat over any other choice that you give them, to the point where 42% of customers use live chat over any of the other channels that were offered. And I'll give you a link to where these stats come from and everything else in the show notes. So 42% picked live chat when given the choice. The next closest one was email, and that was a distant second place at 23%. So a 19-point difference here between people that use live chat and people that prefer email support over that. And that's one of those where, so Chase, let's start there. So why do you think people tend to gravitate toward live chat when offered other choices like phone support, email support, whatever other things they might be using? Why do you think people gravitate toward that live chat?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one of the big draws to live chat is similar to phone support in that the back and forth is very quick. You don't have to wait on somebody to reply to your email and wonder how long that's going to take. And generally, you get the resolution you want within a matter of minutes rather than perhaps hours or maybe even days, depending on how long an email back and forth takes. But a lot of people, so you could say the quickness as well as the ease of replies and things like that are for both live chat and phone. But a lot of people just don't like getting on the phone these days. So I think that's kind of one of the reasons that live chat wins out. And also online products like ours and people that are doing similar things. Phone support is a little bit more difficult when you're trying to send links back and forth and really dig in on some pretty technical problems. So I think that's also where live chat shines is, it's still text, but it is, instantaneous or live so that you can have kind of the best of both worlds as far as that goes.
Yeah, that's what with the Basecamp team, we have started using phone support more and more. And for basic questions, I need to update my email address, I need to update a credit card, like that kind of stuff. Phone support's great, really easy to use, that kind of thing. But when it comes to those complicated queries that you were talking about, so somebody's code is not working on their website, or they've got some WordPress comment that just won't delete. It's kind of hard to guide somebody through what to try when you're on the phone and can't really see what
Hmm.
exactly they're looking at and that kind of thing. Now, one of the things I thought was interesting, this is from a survey that was put together by our friend Adam over at Customers That Stick, and they broke it down into like age. So what age groups prefer live chat versus phone support, which I thought was really interesting. And it tends to be just like you would probably guess. The younger you are, the more you skew toward live chat, and the older you are, the more you skew toward phone support. So is that something you noticed, like with when you were doing those live chat with WordPress customers? Like, was there any kind of like distinction between younger customers using live chat more?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, in general, we could probably deduce that from the things that we saw. We don't, I mean, I didn't, necessarily know somebody's age, but you can usually kind of tell based on the kinds of questions and the language that they use and that kind of thing. And even now, I'm mainly doing email support, but oftentimes we'll get people to request phone support. And a lot of time, by looking at their Gravatar, their website, usually we can at least find out a little bit about the user with Jetpack support. So a lot of times those that ask for phone support are older users who are probably more used to talking on the phone to get help with something because their entire lives basically the email wasn't always around, and so they're just used to talking on the phone to get support for whatever they need. And so I can definitely understand why they would tend towards phone rather than live chat support, as opposed to somebody who's you or my age who may go for live chat over phone for the most part.
Yeah, and I think that breaks down too by how technical somebody considers themselves to be. I guess that's a good way to put it. Like a lot of the phone calls that I get, the person will usually preface it by saying, I'm not techie enough to use, email or Twitter or whatnot, so I prefer
Mhm.
phone. Was that something you kind of saw too? Like if somebody was techie, they tend to skew more towards live chat?
Sometimes, yeah. And we also see a fair amount of techie people who are fine with email as well. So I'm not sure that that's necessarily a correlation that I'd be comfortable drawing all the time. But we definitely see our fair share of techie users in both places. So.
Yeah, so let's dive into so keeping all that in mind, when you're looking at should you be offering live chat, that is, your target audience, your customer base is one thing you want to consider. What's the age demographics look like? How techy do people consider themselves? If they're like Adam points out, if they're millennials, then live chat is something that they almost expect to have on a website. So if that's kind of your audience, then that's the way you need to skew things. So when we're looking at your actual product, did WordPress make any distinction between paid customers versus people like in the trial stage? Like if I'm starting out in a trial with WordPress, would I get live chat, or is that something like I'd have to wait for to be a paying customer for?
So usually, what we would do is, even if they were on a trial of one of our paid products, they would also get live chat support. So obviously, paid users would get it.
Mhm.
That was kind of the test we ran, and usually we would extend that to people on trials just because they were also using basically the same products that the paid users were using, or the same upgrades, if you will, that the paid users were using. So we figured they may as well get the full experience while they're on a trial of that upgrade. So that was kind of where we drew the line, was people with paid upgrades or who are trying out a paid upgrade. That was basically, and I'm pretty sure that's still, like I said, I haven't done live chat in a little while on WordPress.com, but I'm pretty sure that's still kind of the distinction we draw.
Yeah, I think when we tried it with Basecamp, and I'm kind of the same boat as you know. It's been a little while since we tried live chat. It was something that we kind of put on the shelf with the latest version of Basecamp since we wanted to try phone support and see how that worked out. But when we did offer live chat, it was for paying customers on our higher plans. Because I think a lot of it is, it sounds really great. If you're a growth a growth hacker or whatnot, you want to be you want to have an open, accessible channel inside of your trial because people are more likely to convert. But the thing happened, the big problem comes in when those people do convert. onto a plan that doesn't have live chat, it's kind of a jarring experience. You've got this friendly face to talk to. Well, I say friendly face, but you know what I mean. This friendly person to talk to through this live chat tool during your trial, and then all of a sudden you pay for like a smaller plan, and all of a sudden you don't have it anymore. So that was kind of one of the reasons why we didn't do it for the trials. I kind of think, if you're thinking about offering live chat and you do offer it to your trial signups, like that pretty much locks you into offering it for everybody on a paid plan, right?
Yeah, for the most part. And not like I said, not everybody takes advantage of it either. A lot of people will still go through, email support or whatever else. And kind of the way we structure live chat is that if all of our operators, are full with, however many, I think 2 to 3 chats is usually the maximum that each operator will take. We basically hide the live chat forum at that point and just direct people to email or our private forum or whatever else. So. Some users may see the live chat form 1 minute and not the next if, there was 1 or 2 chats that came in and, that topped everybody off. So, sometimes it's kind of a crapshoot, I guess, if you can get live chat, but that's also something we're working on is making sure that we have enough staff dedicated to it so that we can have it available, as often and as much as possible.
Yeah, that's one of those. If you offer live chat, then it needs to be live chat. It shouldn't be hold on and wait the next 20 minutes for a representative, because I use one of those. I use a product that offers live chat, email support, in-app support, phone support. I think they do basically like everything. If you want to, I'm sure if like you had a question on Instagram, they would like take a photo and send you the answer back or something. They're just that kind of company. But it was one of those where if I wanted to use the live chat option, I'd have to sit in a queue for 20 minutes, and that just makes no sense. That's kind of the point where you need to hide it, even though it's going to be a little jarring for your customers to be like, I know I saw a live chat option. Where is it? It's
Right.
Still the better play to make than to let somebody sit for 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And there are ways that you can kind of let people know, hey, we're full with live chat or whatnot. Just because the live chat isn't offered doesn't mean it needs to like entirely disappear. You can still use the same box, and like you said, just point them out toward email support or things like that. Olark does a really great job with this, and if you're looking at live chat tools, I definitely recommend Olark because they're a great team. So when your they call them operators. When your chat operators are full, handling like 3 or 4 conversations each, then instead of showing a live chat box, it shows a contact form where you can submit an email ticket through. So I thought that was a really nifty way. Is that how Automatic did it? Like if the chat got full?
Right. Yeah. You basically just see kind of the way we do it is we have a form where you can fill in your question and things like that, and at the end you get the option to either email or live chat, and so the option to live chat basically disappears when all the operators are full, and you're just prompted to send an email basically. So yeah, pretty much the same thing.
Okay, so if a company goes in and says, hey, we're going to use live chat, it's something we want to offer to everybody, where should they focus on putting it inside of their product? Is it something that needs to be on like all of their marketing pages, like their website? So if I go to like WordPress.com and the sign up page and all that, should it be there, or is it something that should be kept off of that and more inside the app itself? So if I'm logging in and looking at like the WordPress dashboard, that's where I would see it. How did y'all handle that?
Yeah, we started off and still do a little bit in the dashboard itself is kind of where we place that, and also on our contact form for our support pages is where we put that. We don't necessarily advertise it a ton, in marketing pages or anything like that, and we don't necessarily offer it directly on support pages or we don't really do pre-sales live chat, so we don't like have it on our store pages or anything like that either. So it's mainly, either in the dashboard, or you can also find it, directly on the contact form where you're looking for the different options you have to contact us for help.
Yeah. Do you think customers did you ever run into a customer that, for lack of a better word, like complained because it wasn't on like the marketing site?
I haven't had anybody, funnily enough, I actually have some folks complain about it being on the dashboard because they say it gets in their way or they don't like seeing it there. So we've kind of had to come up with some interesting hacks for a few users to basically hide that live chat forum on their dashboard because it just annoys them and they say they never want to use it. So honestly, I've seen more that route, which is to me a little weirder and funnier than people complaining it's not on marketing or store pages or things like that.
Yeah, that's one of those. I agree wholeheartedly on that one because it's rare to find a customer that's like, gee, I wish it would be less accessible.
Yeah, yeah, it was a little jarring the first time we saw that, but in a way I can understand it. They don't want the little box necessarily there. I mean, it doesn't pop up or anything. It's pretty hidden if you ask me, but to some people they don't want to see it. So I guess you have to respect that, obviously.
Yeah. So from the support pro side, when you're in the middle of a live chat, you're dealing with a couple of conversations at a time. How did you manage to keep? Because I'm sure you're like me. You probably had 3 or 4 conversations going at a time. How did you manage to keep all of those different conversations straight in your head?
It's pretty tough sometimes, but I generally just kind of try to reread at least the last couple of, if I'm working on one conversation or researching something, and then I go back to a different conversation, at least try to refresh my memory by rereading the last couple of interactions I've had. So the last couple of replies the user sent, and then what I've said back, and usually that's enough to kind of bring back to the front of your memory what you were doing and what you were working on if it's been a few minutes. But I mean, like anything, it's easy to get confused, and sometimes you may paste the wrong link to the wrong person. Every once in a while, that's happened a couple of times to me. So you just have to apologize for it and move on if that does happen. It's easy to do. So, and even not that you've just forgotten what was going on, but that you just happened to click the wrong window by accident and pasted something in there. So, it happens. Just kind of have to deal with it sometimes.
That happened to me so many times. There used to be, I deleted it from my computer since I wasn't using it anymore, but there was a great Mac app that would basically show you what you had in your clipboard over to the side, over on the right. So like when you went to paste something in, like my first thought was I always go back and checked what the last link was in that list to make sure I had the right one. So when you're juggling back and forth between that many conversations, live chat it's kind of different as far as like email goes because these live chat conversations tend to be shorter, quicker back and forth, that kind of thing. Did you still use some of the tools that you used for email support? Like I'm thinking like Text Expander.
Yeah, definitely. For me, Text Expander is a big part of, and was a big part of live chat. A lot of the initial interactions, like the hi there, how are you, and even some common links that we would use in live chat. I would all have those all as Text Expanders, so that I didn't have to go searching for a link to copy and paste it. I could just pop it right in with Text Expander. And keep moving, and some like I said, some salutations and some other little things that you might say to greet or to end a conversation with somebody. I would have those all in Text Expander just so you can keep things moving and move a little quicker. And another tool I use a lot is Alfred, the launch bar application. You can also do one of the things that I really use it a lot for is like custom web searches. So searching our like internal tools for a particular user's account that I can look that up easily or their site and whatever that may be, and also just to search our support docs quickly. You could set up basically a custom Google search for our support site and then search through to find the link to a doc if I need it. So, just things like that, especially in live chat, but also in email support, can really save you some time and help you out.
Yeah, I'm the same way because it comes. So every I was thinking particularly about the Alfred app. Every help site out there has some kind of search tool. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. But when you're using that search tool over and over and over, it's a lot easier to build that kind of thing into the Alfred app. So instead of 4 or 5 clicks to go over to your help site to find a question really quick, it's a lot easier just hit Command space, pull up Alfred, and then type your search query in, and all of a sudden it pulls up the results.
Yeah.
So definitely, for anybody listening, if you're not using Alfred, I would use it. Like I paid for the power. I think they call it the Power Pack with Alfred just so I could get that feature.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. And there are a lot of other, similar apps out there. Alfred just happens to be the one that I and some of my colleagues and coworkers at Automatic use. But if you're not using a launcher or a service like that at all, I would definitely start with Alfred. It's easy to get set up and pretty user friendly as far as getting some of those custom searches in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you were one of the ones that was like, "Hey, you need to install Alfred because it rocks."
It does. It really does.
So just to kind of to round things out, a lot of times people worry about scaling when it comes to live chat. Scaling email is easy. You can handle, 15, 20 email conversations an hour and be fine, whereas live chat, you can only handle a fraction of that. One thing that's unique with WordPress and with Automatic specifically, Automatic's making this nice gradual move toward preferring live chat over email. Which I think is really interesting. How did that feel from your standpoint? Was, as you got more and more customers onto that live chat trial, did it ever were you ever worried about it getting too big?
Yeah, I mean, with a product the size of WordPress.com with many millions of users, that's definitely a concern. And we're still not really to the point where we could just open the floodgates to every single user. So that's kind of why we have to gate it to just paid users as opposed to all users, free and paid. And that's definitely something we're working on to try to find out what the right balance is as far as happiness engineers to user ratio, and also where documentation and that kind of thing fits in, to have users basically find the help they need themselves rather than having to contact somebody. So definitely still trying to find that balance as far as making sure that we have enough folks to staff it, but that they're not also, overwhelmed and get burned out super quick because they're just constantly, doing live chat, which can be pretty grueling if you do that for 8 hours a day if you've never done that before.
Yeah, that's one of those where if you don't have the manpower for it, it's something that I don't think anybody should tackle. It's one of those, like I said, if you've got, if you're talking to 40 or 50 customers an hour, and each of your support pros can handle maybe 3 or 4 conversations at a time, you're going to need a team, 10, 15, 20 people, to handle all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the team has to be flexible enough where I was thinking like Amazon Media is a great example of this with their their live chat, video chat, and all that kind of thing. They have to be flexible enough to scale up their support around Christmas and then downsize back after that holiday rush is over. So if your business, if your product goes through seasons like that, there might be times where you need 20 people on the team, and then once that season is over, you might have like 5 or 10 people just sitting there twiddling their thumbs, which you don't want either. So keep that in mind. The staffing challenges is going to be kind of tough, especially if you're a smaller team or if you have seasons like that. And just kind of to finish things, if live chat does scare you a little bit, because I know like when I first started doing live chat, it was kind of not terrifying, but definitely like a little intimidating to say the least. A good happy medium between email and live chat is a tool, something like Intercom. We had Sabrina on the show a couple of weeks back. Intercom gives you a nice in-app kind of little messaging thing where anybody can pop into it and type their message out over to you, and then it comes into a queue on the back end, and you can answer them just like you would normal emails. So from your side, it looks more like an email inbox kind of queue, and from the customer side, it feels a little bit more like a conversation chat rather than strictly like an email kind of thing. So that's a good middle ground. So yeah, let us know what you think about live chat. It's one of those where every time when we're out at a customer conference or support conference, that kind of thing, and people start talking about live chat, it's something that people have heated opinions on, to put it lightly. Some people love it, some people hate it, and doesn't seem there's really much in between. But do let us know what you think about it. supportops.co/contact is is where you can get your message over to us. Yeah, so let's wrap things up with everyone's favorite part of the week. Oh wait, all right, have you got it? You gonna do it?
No, and I can do that.
Okay, here. No, I got a wood desk. We're gonna make this quick. So we're gonna go. That was the worst ever. This is the only reason we need Jeff and Carolyn back. But it's the very slim version of our shout outs. These are the things that are making us happy, so happy. We want to shout them out from the rooftops to let you know you should be using, buying, or doing this thing. There's only two of us, like I said, so it's a slim version. So Chase, what's your shout out for this week?
So Jeff last week talked about the Groove HQ customer support blog, and I'd never actually read through. I'd seen links to a couple of the articles, but I actually went and read through a lot of them. And so I picked out one that's interesting just because it's something we do at Automatic. But the title is How to Establish a Culture of Everyone Does Support. And to me, that one really stuck out. I enjoyed reading that because that's something that we at Automatic, are pretty proud of. Is that everybody in the company does support at least 1 week out of the year, at least for an entire week out of the year, if not more often than that. And so I enjoyed that article and enjoyed the points that the author made. So if you haven't read that one, I would definitely suggest checking it out, as well as the entire blog there.
Yeah, and that's one of those, if you haven't figured it out yet, you should probably be reading that Groove HQ blog, just because it is a great resource for things like that. My shout-out this week goes out to, ironically enough, another chat app called LiveChat, livechatinc.com. Marna over there has put together a really great support hiring guide that, if nothing else, has dragons, which is awesome. I mean, who doesn't love a guide that has dragons in it? But she went through and really nicely and concisely put together a great guide that has basically everything you need to be thinking about when it comes to hiring a new person for your support team. She talks about hiring the right people. She talks about the training part of it. She has picked all of our brains for stuff like this. I mean, she talked to me and Jeff and just has some really great sources for it. So definitely check it out. Support hiring guide by the fine folks over at Live Chat, particularly by Marta. So I'll have that and all of our other links in the show notes so you can check those out. Next week we're going to be off. I'm going to be out. So, and I'm assuming probably Carolyn is still out. Like I said, she's going to MIA. So next week we won't have a show, but we'll be back the following week. Same bat time, same bat channel. So until we see you for that episode, have an awesome 2 weeks.